being keenly aware of it in yourself, that is the gift that our shadow could provide.
Yeah.
That is one of the gifts that our shadow provides, is we're able to see it in others to help them through their struggles, maybe.
Yeah. And in the process, to me, if you're any kind of good teacher, what happens is as you're teaching the class, you're reflecting in your own life of the stories and the challenges that you're still having as you're teaching the material on helping other people, do their shadow work. And that's the part of never stop growing, never stop learning, always taking in new ways on how to be better at containing this wonderful thing that we have to live with for the rest of our life. Welcome, family, to the Bacon Bits Podcast, where we desire for you to take the bits of information and immediately apply them to your life for success. The ground rules for our podcast is that it will always be encouraging, uplifting, and informative. The areas of life that we will be talking about on the Bacon Bits Podcast is dealing with having a balanced life, spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, and in relationships. And it's these 5 words that I love, that energize me so much every day. I need to hear y'all say them out loud. Say valuable. Information. Apply. Equals success. And you know who voice that is right there. The wonderful, outstanding, fabulous, gorgeous, spectacular, tremendously blessed woman of God, Diana Acosta-Bacon.
Hey, babe.
Hey, boo. Super excited about this wonderful time to spend with you and speak about some of the wonderful things that's going on in life, and for us to say, you know what, we are super grateful for where life is at right now. But the things that we want to talk about on this podcast is dealing with you, ourselves. How can we be better? How can we do things that's going to help us go way further than we thought we could go? How you feeling today, babe?
I am feeling okay today, babe.
That's good to hear. Yeah.
I've had better days and I've had worse days.
Right.
So I'm feeling okay. These
Yeah.
allergies are kicking our tail.
Come
my
on,
tail.
babe.
And a lot of people's tail around here. We've had a lot of rain this year, and people with asthma and allergies are definitely feeling it.
Yeah. And it's good for, people to hear that. Yeah, we have our everyday challenges and the things that we go through. And that needs to be said because, life ain't always going to be a wonderful bed of roses. Don't forget that there's thorns on the roses. So there's parts of our lives that we always can be working on. So what we're going to be talking about today is shadow work.
Yeah. I find this fascinating. I think it's super interesting, and it's something that all living human beings deal with every day. Like, we all deal with our best. At least we should try, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not in competition with anybody else.
No.
We're in competition with us. Always trying to be a little bit better than we were yesterday, and sometimes we have some wins, and sometimes we have some losses, and sometimes we have some demands on our life that makes us come out of our character and makes us feel bad. And a lot of these things are triggers, and a lot of these triggers are our shadow,
Yeah.
and some of the issues that we're dealing with. And we all have this, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
None of us, not one of us, has come to a point in our life where we are done. Like, we have completed the work. We have accomplished all the work there is to do with us, because as we keep on living, more things come up. More layers of things are revealed. And with every layer of the onion, as Donkey so well put it in Shrek,
Right.
every layer of the onion reveals another layer.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't say that, but with every layer comes another one, and there's a lot of crying involved. That's why it's an onion. So, yeah. So there was a question that I saw, like, on one of the TikToks that I thought was really cool. And I want to just dive into it a little bit and talk about this. So I know that you really cover a lot of our character, a lot of things that have to do with our character and being the best that we can be, in every situation, and how some of the challenges that you've dealt with and some of the challenges that other people deal with, and some of the challenges that you confront at work on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So a shadow is just the same thing. It's part of our character, our traits, but it's the ones that we try to hide. It's the ones that we try to fight. It's the ones that we try to mask. It's the ones that sometimes we don't know how to deal with. And one of the questions that I saw on this one TikTok I was watching, it said, I love the way that was presented. It said, what are the potential gifts of our shadow trait? So that even our, what we consider our negative side, our downside, our dark side, right? We all have a dark and, my daughter calls it what does she call it? Dark and twisted. We all have a dark and twisted side, a shadow side. But some of those things are gifts. There's parts of those that are there to help propel us into our purpose.
Yeah.
And to encourage us to be aware of this shadow, to therefore maybe not conquer it as much as, for me, dissect it. I want to know what makes it live. I want to know how it lives, what it thrives on, because you can't just kill something and keep moving. You have to dissect it to know what it is that it's been living on to begin with. Okay, so Carl Jung is a psychiatrist that a lot of people are familiar with, and he's the one who suggested that shadow. Let me see if I can find his quote. The shadow forms out of our attempts to adapt to cultural norms and expectations. It's this archetype that contains all of the things that are unacceptable, not only to society, but also to one's own personal morals and values. So things that it might include are things like envy and greed and prejudice and bias and hate and aggression and anger. So Jung suggested that the shadow can appear in dreams or visions. And it might even appear as a snake or a monster or a demon or a dragon or some other dark, figure. I know that it's kind of funny, but you have a dream. How many of us have had dreams and you wake up and you swear it was real?
Yeah.
It was so real. You ever get mad? Like, John had a burger in my dream and fries, and he didn't bring me anything. So I woke up and I was mad at him because he didn't bring me any fries or a burger. But, he was dreaming of actually eating one. Maybe that was me thinking of overindulgence. I don't know, but it's just a joke. But the reality is we have dreams, and man, a lot of our dreams feel so real and they haunt us.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's huge, because in the recovery field, we talk about, like, usually within the first 6 weeks after you decide to get your life right and get off the drugs and alcohol, they have a phase called the pink dream, or the pink cloud, is where you start dreaming about you using, and the dream is so freaking the dream is so vivid that the people wake up sweating. They swear up and down that they actually, fell back and used again, because the dream was that vivid of that they was using. And so sometimes in our dreams can become so engulfing and so captivating that we swear up and down that dream was that real. So that's why it's amazing that you would say something about the shadowing. That's really important for us to work on, and always knowing that, there's always room for improvement. There's always room to grow, to be better. And as we're talking about the layers, the cool part is never to stop wanting to grow. If you ever stop wanting to grow, guess what? It's going to be challenging, because if you feel like you've arrived and everything is always okay, man, you're going to have some major trials and tribulations in life, because, man, life is always evolving. You're always should be, growing. There should be parts of you that's like going through the 4 seasons, where seasons are really hot and there's nothing being productive, or it's really cold and you don't see nothing. But in the spring and fall, where, we plant the new seeds, and in the fall where there's a harvest, I think it would be amazing to know that, guess what, if I know that there's seasons, and there's some seasons, I'm not to expect anything from it. I just got to ride this thing out until I get to the other side of this. I think it would be amazing.
Yeah. It's funny that you talk about seasons, because I would run down a rabbit trail for seasons, and I think that in my little short rabbit trail, I'll make it short. Seasons really do teach us. Nature teaches us, for those who will pay attention and listen, because in the winter we are supposed to rest. everything looks barren and dead. Everything, like some animals go into hibernation. And then here comes what's after spring, what's after winter, spring, right?
Spring,
Things start coming to life again, and that's when we start beginning to grow. And then summer is when things are already bloomed out, and it's time to cosechar. I don't know what that word is in English, cosechar. And then in fall is my favorite season because that's when nature teaches us to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Just let it go. The leaves drop their leaves. The trees drop their leaves, and they just let it go. They don't worry about whether it's coming back. And you don't see branches reaching down to try and keep their leaves on, and like let it go. So that's my rabbit trail. But back to shadow work. I am fascinated, and I love shadow work. I feel like I'm always trying to figure myself out. What makes me tick? What makes me talk? What makes me walk the way I do? What makes me dress the way I do? What makes me pick the things I want to eat? What makes me say the things I want to say? What makes me listen to the music I want to hear? In every situation, I find myself drawn to a certain type of music if I had a certain type of dream.
Yeah.
And I think our dreams reveal some of those dark shadows. But again, we're talking about the gifts that our shadow can bring us. What are some of the gifts that our shadow brings us? So one thing we want to make sure is that we don't try to ignore it. Trying to ignore your dark part of your side, your dark and twisty side, isn't going to work for you very well for a long time. Isn't going to work. As young children, we're taught to repress and to be embarrassed or ashamed of it in some way. Like, I can't believe you did that. Or like, we have to learn how to live and cohabitate in this body, in this psyche, in this mind with both parts of ourselves. Because we need the shadow. We need to embrace our dark parts of us. And I think that some of those dark shadows come because they're parts of us that haven't been nurtured. I think that grows when the more we ignore it, the less that we nurture it, the less that we embrace it, the more we run from it, the more it appears. Almost demanding attention. So I think part of it is first embracing that. Yeah, we all have kind of a dark and twisty side to us. We all have kind of a shadow that follows us. It's with us always in every place, and everything has a shadow. Everything has something that could trigger us, embarrass us. And I think we have to find ways that we can find the gift in it. Ignoring it only leads us to feel, like I said, embarrassed or triggered. Maybe I think that you've dealt with probably a lot of people, and myself also, that are self-loathing. Like, they hate themselves. They don't think there's any good in them. They have really low self-esteem. These are the shadows taking over your life. These are the shadows taking over your psyche. A lot of people deal with depression and anxiety.
It's a lot
because they don't know how to cohabitate. They don't know how to embrace this shadow in order to dissect it, in order to live with it. Because ignoring it, again, we've come to this conclusion that it's never going to work, right? And then some people with the shadow they have the complete opposite, where they have the inflated ego, and you wonder where that ego comes from because they're a hot, steaming mess. Right? They're a hot, steaming mess. So I think my first suggestion would be to find a licensed therapist to do shadow work. There's a lot of journals right now, which is really cool. They have a lot of journals that people have created that you can do self shadow work, like just working it through yourself, and it has questions. They have things that you can work with a partner or a friend or a loved one or a trusted one. But I will always suggest find somebody that you trust and you feel comfortable with. You definitely want a therapist. But at the very bare minimal, get a journal, get a shadow journal. Start doing the work yourself and figuring out what are those parts of yourself and those aspects of yourself that are triggering you, and maybe start embracing those parts of you so you can learn how to nurture them and how to calm them. Self-soothe, right? If anyone is out there with children, you remember there comes a point in an infant's life where you try to teach them to self-soothe, and you have to let them cry through the night a little bit, so they don't get accustomed to you just showing up every 5 minutes for everything. Once you know the baby's fine and they're not wet, they're well fed, you teach them to self-soothe. And I think it's almost the same with like shadow work. It's like that inner child within us. We have to learn how to nurture that child so they don't come out and pitch tantrums, because adults still pitch tantrums.
Yeah.
They might not be on the ground screaming and kicking, but they're still pitching fits, and they're getting away with it. And I'm sure you see this every day.
Yeah, and I think it's always the huge thing. I think like I said, I think some of the stuff that we like fight, and I'm just going to use the one that's one of the things I always have to work on is anger. Anger in and of itself is not wrong, but it's what we do with the anger. And I think that's the same thing like with like confidence. If anytime somebody's overconfident, we switch over to cockiness, and it's just confidence took it to the another level that it shouldn't have went to. Same thing with, I think, humility. Same thing. I think humility is a beautiful thing, but if taken to the wrong extreme, it's the false humility. It's not really what it's intended to be. So I think we have to constantly say to ourselves, what is this thing that's in my life that sometimes I have a tendency to take it to an extreme and have to dial that thing back and actually, work at it and take it for what it is.
Yeah. So our question was, what are the potential gifts of our shadow traits? So let's see. I think if we have envy, if we have, like you're talking about anger, for me, it's anger in the reverse.
Right.
I implode, you explode.
Yeah.
I implode, so that looks more like depression and sadness. I'm a very melancholy person by nature. By nature, I'm an introvert. Most people think I'm an extrovert, but I'm not. I like being alone. I like being with my thoughts. I like trying to figure myself out. Although I can be, with other people. But it's trying to find the opposite of what that is. So to start, we first have to have an open mind to start to understand our shadows, right? The biggest one is practice self-compassion. We have to be compassionate to ourselves. I know that I am guilty, and I've been guilty, and much better now than I have been. But I was so easy to offer compassion to others and kindness and gentleness, but not to myself. I was really, really hard on myself, and I still tend to be. I'm still a plower by nature, but disability has taught me a lot of things, and it's taught me to slow down. And where I used to be proud of my multitasking abilities, now it takes me 3 days to recover. To try and multitask is just too much. It's just too much. And it's part of self-compassion. It's recognizing that there's certain parts of our life that we don't have to try and do everything.
Right.
We can ask for help.
Yes.
And that's, where our shadow might be arrogant and angry, we can practice the opposite, and that's humility and asking for help. And that might feel uncomfortable to a lot of people. Don't want to ask for help. They feel like people need to be mind readers, and they can see that I need help, and they're not even offering. And we've all been a little bit guilty of that.
Yes,
I just had a conversation with an old friend of mine on Sunday, and he was saying how angry he was that people aren't built the way we were in our generation. That how come they can't see? They see that you need help, and they just watch you. They look at you, and it made him very angry. And I was fascinated by the thought that he didn't think of asking for help. Rather, he became angry at the thought that they see I need help, and they're not offering. They're not showing up. They're playing the video games, or they're watching TV, or they're just not present. And sometimes we're so quick to recognize shadows in others, which are usually the traits that annoy us and frustrate us, and usually the same traits we have within ourselves that we haven't dealt with. So, practice self-compassion. Be patient with yourself, not just in every situation, but through the whole journey. Like, we have to constantly remind ourselves, if this was 5-year-old child that I'm talking to, how would I talk to that person? And to talk to yourself and nurture yourself. And, we've all heard the phrase of, as adults, we get to reparent ourselves. Instead of blaming our mom and dad for things that we didn't receive or needed, give yourself those things now. But in order to do that, you first have to pay attention, keep an open mind, and practice self-compassion. Be a little patient with yourself. And you have to create time to focus on your shadow work rather than trying to multitask 3 things at once, Diana. You can't do 5 things at once, Diana. And there's something to be said with the power of pause.
Yeah, ooh.
The power of pause allows us time to reflect. And that's part of like pump the brakes, baby, pump the brakes, slow down. Everything doesn't need a response. It's interesting if you just, there's this, sometimes we have arguments with our loved ones. And it's interesting if you ever do this exercise where you mirror back. So if you were to say something to me, and my job is to mirror back exactly what you said. So I'm rephrasing it. So if you said, like say a sentence as an example, like something like I would want something to eat, anything. It could be any example.
I really love your glasses, babe. They are so beautiful.
So what I'm hearing is that you really love my glasses and they're really beautiful.
And
that's all mirroring back is. That's it. So if you do this when people are angry or you're trying to argue, you recognize how little you actually listen.
Right.
If you take time to listen to the other person saying and simply mirror back, because when you do this, sometimes you're like, I didn't even say that, but that's what you're hearing. Mm-hmm. So be patient with yourself and take time to reflect. The power of pause, because we're listening to answer rather than listening to listen.
Right. And
when the other person hears what you receive back and you mirror it back, I think it's going to be healthy for your relationship as well.
Oh, no doubt.
And this is so crucial because this is all shadow work. Mm-hmm. All of that is shadow work for personal development, for healthy relationships, for healthier you, for a healthier psyche, to help us become the better version of ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Most definitely, honey.
So, what are the potential gifts of our shadow trait? If I'm angry, then I have to learn how to be patient. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's trying to teach me to be patient, because anger usually is triggered. People love to blame everybody else and say they keep triggering. Well, let's find out what it is that's being triggered. First of all, they're not triggering nothing. Yeah. The fact is you haven't dealt with this one shadow within you, right? So if you're angry, I know you love the Hulk. Why do you love the Hulk so much, babe?
Because he don't have to get mad. He always stays mad. And that's the thing that's amazing, because I don't have to show it on the outside that I'm mad, but there's always this inner, turmoil going on inside of me that, even though a lot of times people see 95% of the time they see me so happy and so joyous, but they don't realize like there's
mad as hell. you can go from 0 to 90 in 2.5 seconds.
And it's boiling, and that's the part of when you find out what's one of the positive traits, of the anger is, okay, so what's the thing that's triggering you to be angry, and I think it's a blessing sometimes, because there's something that's supposed to be done about it. It ain't just supposed that you just be angry just to be angry. Sometimes it is like, we say righteous anger, which is, stuff like, people being mistreated, or, we'll get fired up about, human trafficking, or, racism, or sexism, or whatever it may be. And we're supposed to be mad about it, but it ain't just supposed to be angry just to be angry. What are we going to do with the anger? And it's going to make the situation that much more better for everybody around us. So that's where, to me, the beauty of that shadow work that you need to do is like, not just I'm just being mad just to be mad, but what is supposed to come of this that's a blessing, even though it don't feel like a blessing at the moment.
Yeah, it's a gift. But if you don't take the time to recognize the fact that, if the truth be told, you're always percolating angry, mm-hmm. and the truth be told, only those who really are close to me, and it's very, very small amount of people, mm-hmm. Know that I can cry in a moment, mm-hmm. because I'm always in tears. I'm always in tears. I'm just a melancholy person, mm-hmm. by nature. Does that mean I don't have joy or gratitude? Absolutely not. They coexist. But I'm always fully, keenly aware, and I don't have to find blame as to where it first began, or to whom whom cultivated that. Mm-hmm. For me to have a valuable, joyful life, I just need to know that it's in me, and to nurture that person and that child within me. And maybe I know a way to speak to myself is I trust you regardless. Like people, I'm sure you've heard it, babe. Like someone, I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself. I've spoken to grown men and women. I can never get married. I will never get married. I don't trust myself. What if I meet someone better? You're always going to meet someone if you keep looking. And the reality is it's a decision you have to make. Just like eating food and being healthy and going to work and showing up. You have to commit. You have to commit. But a lot of people still say, I don't trust myself. Well, then how do you keep a job?
Right.
How do you stay healthy? How are you not dead? How do you drive? You trust yourself to stay within the rules of the road.
Right.
You trust yourself to certain degrees. You just don't want to do the work it takes to stay committed to one person. Well, at least you recognize that. Well, then at least let's work from there.
Yeah.
Right? Talking to yourself, I believe in you. I believe, like ignoring it, like isn't going to make it go away.
Right.
I believe in you. I believe that you're sad and you have reasons to be sad, and we can always find reasons for you to be angry, and I can always find reasons for me to be sad.
Right.
There will always be a reason for our shadows to exist and to take over our daily. Always.
Yeah, and we had to ask ourselves that question. I don't think that it's supposed to go anywhere. I think you're always going to have it.
Yeah.
But it's just about, like you said, about maintaining it and keeping your composure, that it doesn't, consume you to the levels that it can. Sure enough, consume you if you allow it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe talking to my little girl inside of me, which is my shadow work, and saying, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're in my life. Like, you're worthy of love. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here because you're teaching me to stay compassionate to others.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're teaching me to recognize and to be kind and gentle with others. And if I wasn't always feeling broken inside and sad and melancholy, I might move too fast and miss the opportunity to be kind to somebody. I might miss it because I can't get out of it.
And I think the cool part also that I like is the fact that you're relatable when you express to people. There's some stuff that I have to deal with that on the outside you might not notice. And this is the fun part about actually teaching anger management classes, is the fact that when you can break it down of what you have to go through when you're angry. And it's the cool part about knowing that we're not talking about being angry at that moment. What we're doing is, as we're taking the class, we go back and reflect on 2 or 3 of the last episodes we had. And it's always amazing to see the growth in people, because you just know that, man, I can feel your pain of how you get frustrated with yourself because you be angry so much. But knowing that I've seen you grow, because you went from hitting people to, guess what, we went to cussing out. Like I said, it was huge. I'm like, man, you know what? Instead of you physically hitting the person, you cussing them out. Now we do know that words do hurt. That lie of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. We know words hurt, but we going from physically hurting people to you cussing them out to, guess what, you looking at them crazily. And then now you just say to the point, you know what, I can contain this, because this is not worth an effort for me to go off and explode. And then I got to repair all the collateral damage of what happened because I had a moment. And that's the cool part about saying, you know what, this is something I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life, but it doesn't have to rule me the way it usually does when I used to let it happen all the time without me thinking about it, without me doing the work that it takes to understand why I do what I do.
Yeah. And I think, sorry, we had a little sidebar. I think embracing that, like you said, you being keenly aware of it in yourself, that is the gift that our shadow could provide.
Yeah.
That is one of the gifts that our shadow provides, is we're able to see it in others to help them through their struggles, maybe.
Yeah. And in the process, to me, if you're any kind of good teacher, what happens is, as you're teaching the class, you're reflecting in your own life of the stories and the challenges that you're still having as you're teaching the material on helping other people, do their shadow work. And that's the part of never stop growing, never stop learning, always taking in new ways on how to be better at containing this wonderful thing that we have to live with for the rest of our lives?
Well, you make it sound so tragic. We have to live with for the rest of our lives. Yeah, I don't know how to sound so tragic about it, but I mean, we all have it. We all have things within us. We all have envy. We all have strife. We all have anger and sadness, and we all have greed and envy. We have those things that exist. I think it's just societal norms. It's being human. It's just part of being human is tragic and beautiful and ugly, and it's all of it. But trying to ignore those parts of us aren't going to get us very far very quick. And we're not going to be very happy. I think recognizing and believing that you're enough, you are enough, you deserve to be happy, and you have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
You have a lot to offer regardless of the demons that you think are overtaking you. You can learn how to embrace them rather than try to ignore them. And for those who are trying to just kill them, well, try dissecting them instead, and find out what it is that's keeping them alive to begin with.
Yeah, because when you're taking the fact that I have this issue that I'm dealing with, and I'm growing from it, because I'll use the example of drug addict or alcoholic, and especially alcoholic more, because alcoholism isn't against the law. Alcohol will always be with you for the rest of your life. You can change your perception of how you handle alcohol, but the alcohol will always be there, until you hit the grave. Every time you go in the grocery store, every time you go into a convenience store, there's always alcohol there. So that's the part of knowing that, guess what, I'll be dealing with seeing this thing that triggers me, that provokes me. I'm always going to see it for what it is, and it's always going to be there. But the question is, what kind of attitude do I have? What kind of thought process do I have? What kind of belief system do I have towards that thing that used to challenge me so much in the past?
So I'll let you, winding this down. This makes me think about my Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian prayer practice that I learned during my doula training. And as many know, I'm a death doula, and I get the beautiful opportunity to be with people during their transitioning, when they're preparing to the end of their life. And I know I've said it before, and for those who remember it, or maybe they can't remember it, but it's, people are like, how can you stand that? And I think you cannot have a beautiful death without living a beautiful life, is my first step. You cannot have a beautiful death without firstly living a beautiful life. So I think it's important to remember that. And you cannot lead a beautiful life. You cannot live a beautiful life if you haven't fully embraced who you are, loved yourself with all our tragic moments and with all our failures and with all our wins and victories, and stay humble and stay loving and stay kind. But it brings me back to the Ho'oponopono prayer. And it's Ho'oponopono prayer has 4 steps, and it's in everything. It's in everything, but we added one with a doulaship as a doula. So it's, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. And I love you.
Yeah.
Not only are these things that we say to everybody before they pass away, before they die, say these things, but to our shadow work, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to my sadness within me that wasn't nurtured when they needed to be nurtured, that she still needs the attention that she needs. Please forgive me for not knowing how to nurture you, sadness. Please forgive me for all those times I've missed it and just let you just be sad.
Yeah.
Thank you for teaching me that compassion is real. Thank you for that gift. And I love you. I love you. And I don't want to kill you. I want to find the gift in you. And that's the Ho'oponopono prayer, is applying that to every part of our life, to every aspect, to every challenge, and to every victory. So you would say to your anger, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're so angry and you're so pissed off. I'm sorry that I didn't know how to calm that. I didn't know how to deal with that anger. Please forgive me for the times that I let you wreck parts of my life.
Right.
I let you wreck relationships. I let you come out and say things I would never have said. Thank you for teaching me that there is humility in being angry. There is a lesson that you have humbled me to be able to say, I'm sorry, because the times I let you come out.
Yeah.
And I love you. I love you because you're worthy of love.
Mm-hmm. I love
right?
it, babe. I love
to
it. To
apply that Ho'oponopono prayer to so many and every aspect of our life, but including our own shadow, is just a beautiful way to help us deal with us. To just lay in bed and think about the days that maybe today I missed it. Maybe I said something I shouldn't have said to somebody. Maybe I ignored somebody that I heard them calling my name, and I walked really fast and didn't give eye contact because I didn't want to deal with them. And we've all done it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have.
And to sit there and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I did that. I'm sorry I completely missed it. That's not the kind of person I want to be. Please forgive me. And we're talking to ourselves here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Please forgive me. Forgive me. Don't let this harbor in my thoughts. Forgive me for not showing up. I just, I needed a moment. So thank you for giving me that moment, even though if it wasn't the way that I would have wanted it. I love you. I'm going to try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a simple prayer to learn how to accept and to release it. Just release it.
And that's part of doing our work and saying, you know what, let me go ahead and sit down. And there's some areas in my life that I really have a struggle with. And it's not to fix it sometimes. And most of the time, it's not even to fix it. It's to adjust to it and embrace it, honestly. And then say to ourselves, you know what can I learn from using this this characteristic, this part of me that, in most cases I would probably say was a negative trait of mine, but to understand it's part of who I am and to embrace it and say, how can I use it for the better? Because like I said, I love the fact that with the anger of knowing that I'm teaching classes, knowing that I have to hear this stuff over and over again, knowing that I'm always adding different coping skills and conflict, resolutions to figure out, all right, there's nothing wrong with the anger in and of itself, but how can I better manage it? How can I better embrace it and use it for what it's meant to be?
Yeah. So we leave our listeners with the question: what are the potential gifts of your shadow trait?
I like that. Beautiful. Family, we love you. Always love you, and we want the best for you. Family, do your work. This is your boy John Bacon with my beautiful queen, and we are out. God bless. All right, what's up, family? It's your boy John Bacon from the Bacon Biz Podcast. Thank you so much for your support, likes, and ratings. Please don't just listen, but rate me, follow me, and subscribe. This is an amazing way to offer free support. My beautiful queen and I have some books that we have written for your growth.
So the first book we have is a workbook, actually. It's called Healthy Relationships, and this is a workbook through the lens of faith. Because what makes a relationship healthy or unhealthy? So this workbook is designed, it's a 12-week, it's a biblically grounded course, and every week has a few different principles. So if some of our principles, some of our topics that we're covering are respect, cultivating security. And this is not just between a husband and wife. This is between parents, between siblings, between friends, between your bosses, employers. So it's really important, and everyone deserves a healthy relationship.
And also we have The Balanced Life by John Bacon. It covers how to be prosperous in your finances, relationships, your health, your mind, and your spirit. So you can pick that up on Amazon, also on audiobook. And we also have
The Unraveling, a creative healing journal, pinings, poems, prayers, and ponderings of my precarious life. I've had a testimony of, I've had 2 brain tumors and 2 brain surgeries, and I'm super grateful, but I'm still grieving the process of healing. And this is part of the process. In this book, you have devotionals, you have prayers, and you have some ponderings. And in between these pages, there's a space for you to also be prompted to paint and to create your own, or maybe you want to write something in these books. This is part of your creative healing journal that we get to walk through together.
And you guys can just head over to Kingdom Servants First. Kingdom Servants, the number 1, ST.com. And you can purchase all 3 of these books. Thank you for your support, your love, and your contributions. God bless.